Good evening, and welcome. Tonight we travel to a town buried deep in the cornfields, a place forgotten by progress but remembered by something much older. A family seeking peace will find themselves stalked, tested, and nearly consumed by a cult of devout teenagers who serve something they call the seed. Lock your doors, shut your blinds, and pray you never hear the chanting. This is the Harvest Youth. I never thought I'd end up in a place like Holy Grove. My wife, Hannah, found it online. One of those too-good-to-be-true listings. A 2-story farmhouse, freshly painted white with green shutters, sitting on an acre of land bordered by towering cornfields. The price was dirt cheap. A motivated seller, the realtor had said, smiling too wide. We needed a reset. Life in Columbus had gotten too loud, too expensive. Our daughter Lily was only 9, and already she'd been exposed to more chaos than a kid should. School lockdowns, street protests, some creep following her home from the bus stop. So yeah, a fresh start, somewhere safe. From the moment we arrived, though, it felt like we were intruding. Not unwelcome, exactly. Just watched. The townsfolk weren't rude, just still, too still, smiling a second too long, blinking a little too slow, all of them polite to a fault, especially the teenagers. God, the teens. They moved in flocks. Always quiet, always dressed in long-sleeved beige or black. No jeans, no cell phones. I never saw one with headphones or even talking loudly. They didn't hang out at diners or parking lots like I did at their age. They just walked, in groups of 4 or 5, sometimes more, and they always nodded to Lily. Not to me, not to Hannah, only to Lily. The first to speak to me was a boy named Gideon. He showed up while I was unloading some tools from the truck, standing by the edge of our gravel drive like a scarecrow that had stepped off its post. "Afternoon," he said. "Welcome to Holy Grove." I nodded back. "Thanks. You live nearby?" He didn't answer that. Instead, he looked past me, at the house, then at the upstairs window, Lily's window. "She's of good stock," he said. "She'll be welcome when the time comes." I stood there for a moment, confused. What? But he was already walking off into the corn, like it was his backyard. I told Hannah about it that night. She tried to laugh it off but didn't quite pull it off. She didn't like how close he'd gotten to the property. Said it gave her the chills. That was the first night we locked all the doors. The next morning something was waiting for us on the lawn. A spiral, made of corn stalks, arranged with care. About 6 feet across, like a perfect snail shell flattened against the grass. It hadn't been there the night before. Hannah gasped when she saw it through the window. I grabbed a shovel and walked out, half expecting to find footprints. Nothing. Just that eerie spiral. I scooped it up and dumped the whole mess into the fire pit, out back. It crackled and hissed like green wood. The smoke reeked like rot. That night, Lily said she saw someone in the cornfield. He was tall, she whispered, curled up on the couch. His face looked like it was made of wax. He waved at me, Daddy. I told her it was probably a trick of the moonlight. But when I went out there with a flashlight, I found a boot print in the dirt, barefoot. We tried to make the best of it. I kept busy fixing up the barn. Hannah gardened. Lily picked wildflowers and read books on the porch. But it was always there, that weight in the air, like the sky was leaning a little too hard on this patch of land. We saw the teens more often now, sometimes just standing at the edge of the property watching the house. Other times walking in formation down the road, arms at their sides, heads slightly bowed, murmuring something under their breath. I asked the woman at the general store about them. Her name was Ruthie. Mid-40s, tight curls and a tight smile. "Those are the harvest youth," she said. "They keep to themselves mostly, do community work, Bible study, that kind of thing." "Are they homeschooled?" She shrugged. "They're devoted, that's what matters." She said it like that was an answer. That weekend, Hannah wanted to check out the church. The building looked ancient, more like a barn than a place of worship. No crosses, no steeple, just a sun-faded wooden sign over the door. "The seed will judge." Service was Sunday at noon. We decided to go. Only Lily stayed home. She said she had a headache. As we left, she stood in the doorway, holding her stuffed rabbit, watching the corn sway in the breeze. "They're singing again," she said. I froze. "Who is?" She pointed toward the fields. "The kids." I listened, heard nothing. But, as we drove off, I kept glancing at the rearview mirror, watching the corn. I swear something shifted in it, like something tall and pale turned to watch us go. We didn't stay long at the church. The inside smelled like mold and hay. No pews, just rows of wooden benches, all handmade. The windows were high and narrow, letting in shafts of pale light that made the dust look like it was dancing. There was no altar, no cross, no pulpit. Just a raised platform with a wooden chair, the kind you'd see at a farmhouse table. Empty, with a cloth draped over it. The same spiral pattern burned into the wood beneath it, the same as the one we'd found on our lawn. Teenagers filled the room. No adults except for Ruthie sitting near the back. She nodded when she saw us, but it was distant, more like a warning than a welcome. Then Gideon walked in. He didn't wear a robe or collar, just a long black coat and bare feet. The crowd stood, murmured a phrase in unison. "The seed is the word, the soil is the flesh." Gideon smiled, no joy in it, just teeth. He walked to the center and spoke with the calm of a preacher twice his age, quoting something I didn't recognize. Definitely not the Bible. He said, "The elders sow ruin. They plow sin into the soil, but the seed belongs to the youth. They are the fertile harvest. They do not forget." They all nodded like it made perfect sense. Hannah gripped my hand, hard. When the group began chanting again, rhythmic and low like a hum, we stood and walked out. No one stopped us. But I swear I heard Gideon's voice, behind us. "Your branch will break soon." That night, Lily woke up screaming. She said a boy was standing in her room. "He had no eyes, Daddy, just holes, like corn had chewed them out." I searched the whole damn house, room by room. All doors were locked, windows too. But in the backyard, pressed into the dirt like a brand, was another spiral, not made of corn this time, made of ash. Hannah wanted to leave. I did too, but something strange happened when I checked the car. The battery was dead, stone cold, not even a flicker from the dash. And then I looked underneath the hood. Shucked corn husks were packed inside the engine bay, densely woven like a bird's nest. Who the hell would put that there? I called the sheriff. His name was Bramble. Big, ruddy-faced guy who looked like he was carved from a pumpkin. When he pulled up, he barely said hello, just stared at the hood of the car. "That's a mess," he muttered. "You think someone's messing with us?" He didn't answer, just scratched his head and said, "Town kids like to play jokes sometimes. Might be the youth." I asked him if he'd look into it. He gave me a long stare. "They're devoted," he said, echoing Ruthie's words. "They serve a purpose." Then he left. The next morning, Hannah found a note on Lily's pillow. It wasn't written in Lily's handwriting, just one line, scrawled in rough slanted script. "She will walk with us." We didn't tell her. We pretended it was a sick prank, a leftover from the last family that lived here. But something in Hannah broke that day. She didn't leave the house, just sat on the edge of the bed, clutching Lily's stuffed rabbit, like a lifeline. I boarded up the windows that night, nailed every frame shut, slept in the hallway outside Lily's room with a crowbar in my hand. Sometime around 3 in the morning, I heard footsteps on the roof. Then a knock on the window. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't move, didn't breathe. After a minute, it stopped. But when I peeked through the blinds in the morning, there was a fresh spiral drawn in dirt on the glass, smeared by a finger. We tried to act normal. We really did. Made breakfast, played board games, pretended the town wasn't closing in like a trap. But Holy Grove was no place for pretending. At the grocery store, Ruthie pulled me aside. Her voice was low, her eyes frantic. "You need to take your child and go." I blinked. "We've been trying. Our car won't start and the..." She shook her head violently. "No, listen to me. You walk if you have to. Don't stay through the equinox." That's when A bell rang at the front door. A group of teens walked in, all dressed the same, all smiling. Ruthie shut up. She rang me up in silence and didn't look me in the eye. When I turned to leave, I caught sight of Gideon standing behind one of the shelves, watching me, still barefoot, still smiling. That night we decided we were leaving on foot first thing in the morning. But when I went to check the front porch before bed, the entire yard was filled with spirals, dozens of them, made from corn, stone, dirt, bone. One of them had something sticking out of the center, a rabbit, Lily's rabbit, its head twisted off. We didn't sleep. After I found Lily's stuffed rabbit gutted in the spiral, I sat on the porch the rest of the night, shotgun in my lap. I kept the porch light on. It flickered, buzzed, then went out around 2 a.m. I heard footsteps in the corn, but when I pointed the flashlight, there was nothing. Just tall stalks shifting in a wind that didn't reach the porch. Hannah stayed inside with Lily, locked in our bedroom. I could hear her whispering lullabies, but her voice was shaking. At dawn, I stomped out the spirals one by one, like it would make a difference. We packed what we could into a couple of duffel bags and loaded up on canned food and bottled water. We were going to hike out, make it to the next town. It was only 9 miles, mostly dirt roads. I could carry Lily if I had to. We were ready to go by noon. That's when the church bells rang. I didn't even know the church had bells. They echoed through the fields like thunder, low, deep, like it was coming from underground. Then Hannah screamed. I rushed inside. Lily was gone, window open, curtains flapping, a single corn husk on the floor. I lost it, smashed the window frame, threw the lamp, kicked a hole in the closet door. Hannah collapsed, screaming Lily's name, sobbing into her hands. I ran into the corn barefoot, didn't care about the cuts or the blood. I followed the trail of husks, then dried petals, then bare footprints. Small ones, Lily's size. After 20 minutes, I came into a clearing. Empty, except for the church. It wasn't supposed to be here. It should have been across town. But here it stood, in the middle of the damn cornfield, like it had grown from the soil. Smoke rose from the chimney. Candles flickered in the windows. I went in. The church was full. Teenagers packed the pews, every one of them barefoot, dressed in their long black coats, heads bowed, murmuring in unison. In the center, standing before the altar, was Gideon, and beside him was Lily. She looked up when I entered, didn't say a word, didn't cry. Her eyes were glazed, distant, like she was watching something on a screen inside her head. "Return to your seat," Gideon said to the others without looking away from me. "Let the father witness." I shouted her name. She didn't move. I raised the shotgun and pointed it at his chest. He didn't flinch. They always come to us, he said softly. We don't take them. We simply show them the truth. He gestured to the crowd. The old poisoned the soil. They built cities and walls and lies. But the youth are pure, and she has heard the seeds call. I screamed at him to let her go. He tilted his head. Would you rather she live to rot like you, like your wife, hollowed by grief, chained to false idols? Or would you rather she be harvested, reborn in the soil? He stepped aside. Behind him the altar split open, roots pulled apart, and something rose from beneath the floorboards. A thing made of twisted bark, bone and antlers, pulsing with veins that dripped with black sap. It loomed over Lily, tendrils swaying like they were sniffing her. I fired. The shotgun blast hit Gideon square in the chest. He stumbled back but didn't fall. No blood, just a crackle of dirt and dust where the pellets hit. The teens turned in unison. Their murmurs stopped, and they screamed, not words, not rage, but joy. It sounded like celebration. I grabbed Lily and ran. She didn't fight me. Didn't speak. Just stared, over my shoulder, back at the church, as the thing behind the altar rose higher and higher, its limbs bending the rafters, scraping the ceiling, stretching toward the sky. We made it halfway through the field before I heard the first footsteps behind us. Not boots, not shoes, bare feet, dozens of them, slapping the soil in rhythm. I carried her the rest of the way. By the time we got back to the house, it was dusk. The sky was red, and the clouds were shaped like spirals. Hannah met us at the door and collapsed into Lily's arms. I locked every door, boarded the windows, light candles in every room. Lily sat silently in the middle of the living room, staring at the flame. Hannah asked her what happened. She didn't answer, but later that night, as she lay in bed between us, she whispered something in her sleep. The seed will judge. I didn't sleep. Sat in the hallway with the shotgun across my lap. Eyes locked on Lily's bedroom door. Every creak in the house made my finger twitch. Hannah lay inside with Lily, holding her like the world might fall away if she let go. Around 2 a.m. the wind outside stopped. Dead silence. No bugs, no owls, not even the hum of power lines. Just a thick, unnatural stillness that pressed on the windows like fog made of sound. Then came the smell. Burned earth. Charred corn. I stood slowly, walked to the front window and pulled back the curtain. The yard was glowing. Spirals. Dozens of them. All aflame. Someone had drawn massive concentric patterns on our lawn using what must have been oil or pitch. Each one burned, with a perfect orange ring, casting shadows that danced like figures around a bonfire. In the center of it all stood Gideon, barefoot, arms outstretched. The flames licked his shins, but he didn't flinch. He was smiling, always smiling. They walk now, he said, voice echoing like a sermon, from root to sky, from seed to scythe. And out of the cornfield they came, the harvest youth, moving in unison, carrying torches, crude weapons, and bundles of dried vines. They surrounded the house in a slow, widening circle, their eyes locked on us. One of them stepped forward. A girl, tall, maybe 16. Her mouth was sewn shut. Black thread crisscrossed her lips, stitched tight, like a punishment or a vow. She dropped to her knees in front of our porch, arms raised like she was offering herself to something behind her. I slammed the door and bolted it. "They're here," I whispered, locking every window I hadn't boarded. Hannah stood in the living room with Lily, pale and shaking. She held her tighter than ever, but Lily didn't seem afraid. She was humming. A low, tuneless murmur, like a child rocking herself to sleep. "What's she saying?" I asked. Hannah shook her head, eyes wide. I leaned down and listened. "The seed is the word. The soil is the flesh. I grabbed our bags. We have to run, now. But where? The ravine, through the woods. If we can make it to the creek, we can double back, find a road. I opened the back door and froze. Gideon was standing there, inches away. No torch, no weapon, just him, smiling. He opened his mouth to speak, but no sound came out. Instead, his voice hit me in the skull. Return to the soil. Let her go. She belongs to us now. I staggered back, ears ringing, vision blurring. He raised his hand and the air bent around it like heat rising from asphalt. The shotgun in my grip began to twist, bend, like it was made of clay. I dropped it before it snapped in half. I slammed the door in his face. We ran, through the front door, across burning spirals, down the gravel path into the trees. Behind us, the youth followed, silent, barefoot, hundreds of them, walking in perfect rhythm, their torches glowing like distant eyes. Lily didn't scream, didn't cry. She just kept humming. Hannah held her hand so tight, I thought she'd crush it. We cut through the woods, branches ripping our clothes, thorns tearing at our legs. I led the way, flashlight in one hand, crowbar in the other. At the edge of the ravine, we slid down the slope and followed the creek. For a while, the only sound was our breathing and the soft crunch of our footsteps in the mud. Then Hannah gasped. I turned, and Lily was gone. We doubled back, calling her name. No answer. We searched the trees, the rocks, the creek bed. Nothing. Then I heard the singing. 100 voices, whispering that awful chant, coming from all directions at once. We climbed up the ridge, and that's when I saw her. Lily stood in a clearing, surrounded by the harvest youth. She wasn't bound. She wasn't afraid. She stood still, barefoot, eyes glassy, head tilted slightly like she was listening to something deep underground. Behind her loomed something massive, rising from the soil. It had antlers made of twisted roots and a body like a tree hollowed out by rot. Its limbs creaked like old wood as it moved. The seed. It wrapped a gnarled arm around Lily's shoulder and pulled her close. Not with force, but like a parent claiming a child. Hannah screamed. I charged forward, but something buckled my knees. Not a strike, just pressure. Inside my skull, like my brain was being crushed in a fist. The cult was chanting louder now. Spirals formed in the dirt around me, burning orange, glowing red hot. I collapsed, and the last thing I saw before passing out was Lily looking back at me, expressionless, but not afraid. I woke tied to a wooden post in the middle of a scorched field. My arms were bound with dried vines. My shirt was torn. My legs were bleeding. All around me the ground was covered in spirals, burned into the dirt. The youth stood in a circle, eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. Gideon approached. He stepped aside. Lily stood in the distance, alive, whole, still, watching me, and smiling faintly. The post I was tied to groaned in the wind, though there was no wind to speak of. Just heat, rising from the scorched earth, and the smell of something sweet rotting in the fields. The harvest youth stood in a wide circle, unmoving. Their faces were bare of expression, mouths slack, eyes glossy, as if their minds had been unspooled and braided into a single will. The spiral burned beneath me. The ash stung my nose, made my eyes water, but I couldn't look away from Lily. She stood across the clearing, not bound, not crying. Still in her nightgown, hair wild around her face, eyes hollow like old glass. And beside her, the seed. Its massive antlers rose like a crown above the field. Its face, if it had one, was hidden beneath bark and root and pulsing veins. Its chest moved slowly, like it was breathing the way mountains might. When Gideon stepped forward, I felt it in my bones. Not fear exactly, but something deeper. Grief. Like something holy had died long ago, and the rot was now blooming. "You clung to rot," he said, looking down at me, "to rust, to dying traditions. But your daughter, she heard the truth in the soil. She listened." He raised a sickle high. "Not toward me, but toward Lily. She will sow the new age." "Don't," I croaked. My voice barely rose above a whisper. "Please, take me, let her go." Gideon smiled. "We already did." From the crowd, 2 boys stepped forward, dragging something behind them. At first I thought it was an animal. Then I realized it was a man. Naked, covered in mud, mouth sewn shut. Sheriff Bramble. They dropped him at the edge of the spiral. He tried to rise, to beg, but his lips only bled. The crowd didn't cheer. They didn't speak. They simply began to hum, low and deep, like the earth itself was joining them. And then the seed moved. It stepped toward the sheriff, vines snaking from its limbs. One wrapped around his ankle, and with terrifying ease it dragged him into the ground. Not onto the ground, into it. The soil split, hissed, and pulled him under like wet cement. His body disappeared, then his arm, then his face. Gone, swallowed whole. I thrashed against the vines binding my arms, screamed until my throat tore. But the harvest youth just kept humming. Then the seed turned to me. It stepped closer. One massive hand reached out and touched my chest. I felt something inside me crack. Not bone. Time, memory, thought. Everything I was or ever had been peeled away in that touch. And then Lily moved. She walked to the edge of the spiral and stepped into it. "Lily!" I shouted. She looked at me. Her eyes flickered, just for a moment, like something in her had broken through the trance. And she mouthed something. "Run!" Before I could even process it, a torch from the spiral snapped in half. Then another. A few of the youth turned, confused. A howl tore through the cornfield. Hannah. She burst from the stalks with a crowbar in one hand and a torch in the other, screaming like fury itself. She swung wildly, knocking down teens like they were cardboard. "Get away from my daughter!" she shrieked. I used the distraction to wriggle my right arm loose and grabbed a shard of bone from the ground, jagged and sharp. Sawed at the vines until they snapped. When I got free, I sprinted toward Lily, but Gideon blocked my path. He raised the sickle. I tackled him. We hit the ground hard. The sickle flew from his hand. He punched me once, twice, and then I grabbed a stone and slammed it into his face. Over and over, until he stopped moving. I grabbed Lily's hand. She blinked hard, like waking from a nightmare. Hannah met us at the edge of the spiral, blood on her face, her torch burning low. We didn't speak. We just ran. Through fire, through corn, through screams and sobbing chants. We didn't look back. Not when the sky turned red. Not when the soil cracked. Not when we heard Gideon's voice, somehow still alive, screaming after us. The seed is eternal. You cannot escape the root. We made it out of Holy Grove by dawn, found a highway, flagged down a trucker, called the state police. They went back with a full team. Searched every field, every home. They found nothing. No spiral, no church, no teens. Just rows and rows of perfectly cut corn. And a barn filled with blank journals, each one filled with the same phrase over and over. The seed is the word. The soil is the flesh. That was 6 weeks ago. We're safe now. We don't talk much, not yet, maybe not ever. Lily hasn't said a word since we left, but sometimes at night I hear her humming. That same melody, the one the others sang. Last night, I woke up to find her standing at the window, smiling, watching the corn sway in the wind. The town of Holy Grove has vanished. The fields remain, whispering to those who wander too far. Maybe the seed still waits. Maybe the harvest youth walk new rows. And maybe, if you listen closely on quiet nights, you'll hear them singing, soft as wind, sharp as sickles. If you enjoyed our story tonight, we invite you to hit the like button and subscribe for more late-night horror stories and true crime. Until next time, sleep tight.